So, hello everyone. I would like to welcome all the participants to today's event. I am Andrey Shalnev,
I think we lost
Some
Andre.
there's some audio issue.
Yeah, some audio issue.
Uh,
Well, I mean, you can start, Gustavo.
Yeah, so as soon as we have Andre back, uh, we can
Andres
move on
Rosso.
the questions. But so I would like to address everyone. So welcome to our webinar. Uh, Today we're going to talk about social impact in emerging markets. So it's really good to have everyone here, our partners and friends in this program. So welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So we are in
Good
5 different zones. Um, really happy to be here today. And so with no more further questions, I would like to invite Nirja. Nirja is from SPJ IMR, and she's going to speak a little about the Indian context in this issue related to social impact in emerging markets. As you all know, we are here with Colombia, with Jose, and Mexico with Karina, and Russia with Natalia and India from India. So 5 really huge and big economies with lots of challenges, lots of issues. And especially in the last year, we saw different things happening. The world changed itself. Lots of challenges increased in this way. We still facing these challenges. Our countries are changing, the global cooperation is changing. So I'm really curious to hear about all different countries, all these big economies, how this impact the social issues, the social market, the entrepreneurial market, etc., etc. So Nirja is going to host our first model in this program, the BSIEM program. I would like to invite you to have the floor and talk to us a little about the country reality, India, and these main challenges and your vision for the future in this matter. Nirja, with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gustavo. Thank you so much. And thank you, Natalia, Karina, and Jose. Such a pleasure to be a part of this team that we have been working for the last few years. And I think we have really touched upon a very important and significant topic of enterprise, because I think that is an answer for building any economy in the world. More so for countries like ours, which are fast economies, growing economies, but at the same time, really grappling with a lot of issues. So I think we have a very similar objective, similar philosophy, and also similar intervention program where we can learn from each other, also replicate some of the models that we have been tried out in different countries. I think that's a very interesting part of our whole, this whole program of, business and social impact in the emerging market. Coming to India, as we all know, it's one of the huge countries with 1.3 billion population. It's the ranking second in the world, and it's also 17.7 the total world's population it covers. So, with this kind of a population, and it's one of the largest democracies that is we are functioning with, at the same time, it has a lot of problems. We all know that the poverty in India is quite grappling. It is around 68%. And out of that, 30% is the extreme poverty where the income is just $1.25 per day. So when you have this kind of a population and the huge economy and the huge kind of country with democratic, principles and functioning, it definitely leads to a lot of issues. But at the same time, one can't expect government alone to really work with these kind of issues. Of course, government has policies and programs, but I think it's more important when civil society takes a very important part. And with that, we have NGOs and now also corporates with their corporate social responsibilities, and over and above social entrepreneurs who are doing some fantastic work in the country. I must say that India is really leading in the area of social entrepreneurship, because since independence 1947, India has been a country with lot of volunteerism, charitable organization, and a lot of philanthropy. And I think that's the culture and the base of Indian living and style. It could be anyone, it could be middle class, it could be poor, it could be rich. Everyone has that feeling of giving. And I think that is what is really carrying this huge population with this kind of a determination. So I think this program that I'm talking about, social entrepreneurship, is something that has brought in people with a mission, with a purpose. And they are the people who really come up with very sustainable models. And besides that, they have made a difference in this whole understanding of human development, because I feel that economic development is just part of it. The major is the human development, because unless you have human development, economic development will make no sense, because money is not the only way you can give happiness and wellness to people, which we saw last one whole year. We've been saying how pandemic has really brought in people to stand still. Although people had money, but they were helpless, they were not able to do anything. And I think this is a great lesson that we all got to know how people are important and how well-being is important, how health is important, how education is important. So all these areas are something where people have to pitch in, where people have to create some kind of intervention and bring change and social change in society. So my program now on social entrepreneurship is going to be starting from 22nd of Feb. I'll be covering three major aspects in the program. One is that I'm going to bring this whole element of political economic background and the gaps and the need for social enterprise to bring out societal change. Because of all that, where do you think social entrepreneurship fits in? So that's one aspect. We're looking at from the economic point of view. The second part of this theme is going to be the academic purpose, because unless there's an academician who brings in a lot of knowledge to this whole area of social enterprise, it cannot be something which can be really taken forward in the sense of planning, execution, and also measuring. Because unless you measure, you wouldn't know what is the societal change, how much change have you brought in through your programs and intervention. So that's one part. Second thing, I have taken the whole theme of livelihood, because I think livelihood is a very important part, more so because of pandemic, where we have really suffered around 140 million unemployment in the country. India has really got into a bad economy. We're going to negative. We were growing so well. We were almost 6-7% GDP. We've just come down to negative. And I think livelihood is something which is going to take us to some extent of building economy, but more so for women, because we feel that women really are the contributors. So we have taken two aspects. One is the tribal. Now, how do you bring about tribal? Because we have almost 70% people living in rural. So we need to really look into that. And I'm sure Brazil and Colombia and even Mexico, Russia as well, would have these kind of population which would be very much unmet needs. So that's one second part. And we've also taken, how do you really bring development in the livelihood? Health, sanitation, as well as livelihood can all go together, and look at it from the gender perspective and bring about change. So that's another part of livelihood. Then I have taken education. In education, I have taken two aspects. One is, how do volunteerism really make education system sustainable? Because we have seen it now, last whole year, schools were not functioning. We were all dependent on digital revolution that had happened, and the digital was not accessible. So many children were not being able to learn because there was no accessibility, there was no internet, there was no equipment. So how do you bring education to this kind of a population, which all of us are facing with? Because elite society, yes, but what about people who really need? So how do you bring volunteerism and make it a sustainable education? And second is, we also saw how pandemic led to a lot of mental health and behavioral issues. We saw domestic violence. We saw so much of conflict happening. We saw so much of problems in terms of behavior and mental. And how do you really make that a community health? So that's another part of which we'll be taking up as a community mental health and how you make it sustainable. So this is the four big themes. And then finally, we're going to have a challenge or business plan, wherein all these three, four modules that we'll be teaching, Students have to prepare a business plan which will be shared with other students, and we will have panel who will then judge, where, not judging in terms of marks or credit, but judging in terms of where is the need you can improvise these business plan and how these plans can be replicated in your own country. So this is the way, I've designed this whole program, and I hope this is going to be very helpful. I'm sure it will have some kind of enhancement in their knowledge, and also some kind of skill in terms of doing, and of course, some kind of attitudinal change toward this whole issue of social impact and emerging market. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nidja. And I would like to apologize for our viewers and other participants, because you see, the internet connection is a problem. And in times of pandemic, when there is a whole lot more pressure on, on the networks and on the electricity grids, it happens. Now, you had the chance to hear firsthand from Nidja about the situation in India. And India is one of the emerging markets. The thing I was trying to convey to you in the beginning, you see, business in post-pandemic world, exactly what Nidja has been talking about, can, should, and must operate and act in interests of all stakeholders and benefit the society. It is through acknowledgement, common practices, cooperation, and through helping each other out through such program as this one, can we truly tackle the issue of overcoming the damage the pandemic has brought. And just as Nidja began, our today's other honored experts are going to continue talking about the issues most prominent to their respective countries, to emerging markets that they come from. And our next expert is from Mexico, Karina Carrasco, and I would like now to give her the floor. Karina, please.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm Karina Aswara from the University of Monterrey in Mexico, and it's a real pleasure to be here with you and share, as just Nidja mentioned, the context of Mexico, which is pretty similar, but with obviously in other elements. And I want to start with three main points that I want to share with you. The first issue is the context of my country. Mexico is a beautiful country. Mexico is a country of more than 126 million people. And it's the 10th economy and importance in the world because of the attractiveness and the openness of the market. 61% of our population are women. But in those women, another important indicator of what we are is of level of education. 90% of our young people between 12 and 14 years old, they are studying. But from the years of 15 and 24, they are just 45%. We are 6 million of economic units, and we have a high diversity, not just of bio ecosystem, but also with the high inequality from the north part of Mexico and the south part of Mexico. We have a huge differences and a lot of work to do related to education, to access to internet. And one of this point of the indicators that also describe us as the level of poverty, or one of our biggest challenges. Based of the data of National Council for the Evaluation of Social Policy, Dr. Garza Rodriguez, which is one of our researchers here at the University of Monterrey, he just shared an important data. And he explains that the indicators of this poverty increased from 38.5% of the population in the third quarter of 2019, and in 2020, the highest rate we experienced this higher of poverty. This represents increased 11.6 million people living in working poverty to reach 57 million people, as just Nirja mentioned in India, well, in different, obviously, proportion. But this is a huge issue here in Mexico. We have a gender gap and also violence women to achieve, and financial system, which has evolved very well in compared with Latin America, but we still have a lot of work to do, especially for funds and investment, access to entrepreneurship, and mostly for social entrepreneurship. And regarding the second point I want to share is the impact that we just had as the same as in the world. And I want to share this with you through some stories and evidence from different social entrepreneurs, social researchers, very hard work in this ecosystem. So first of all, definitely according with the World Economic Forum, this inability of oil markets in mostly in these developing countries, they said we do have a lot of problems, mostly not talking about productivity, but also with inclusions and also with sustainability. It's the same thing here in Mexico. For 2020, the pandemic exacerbated some of these trends with the inequality. Productivity is just one of the issues. It's a matter of share. We need to share prosperity, increase the sustainability, and we're here in Mexico as well, as just Nadia said, we need to reduce the gap. That is the huge opportunity for all those social entrepreneurs to develop value, to create value in a collaborative way so we can work together with it. So as Dr. Luis Portales said and mentioned, we must reduce or increase the accessibility to capital for these social entrepreneurs, because we know, and mostly after this global situation of the pandemic, that the social business are the ones that have the solution. They are moving to move forward our economy, but mostly our society with equality. And going to the other points, talking about what are the main challenges that we have in Mexico and of course globally. The global economy for 2020 is highly dependent, but in the evolution of the pandemic as countries and of course and the global issue, and of course of the effectiveness of the recovery strategies, not just of the government, but the society, but the entrepreneurs, but the education, working together. The main issue here in Mexico, as I mentioned before, the poverty, reduce the poverty gap, gender gap, the access of education. The same happened that just Nadia mentioned with this change, with this lockdown, all the education, a lot of students couldn't have the same access to just computer or the internet and continue with the process of education. That's a big issue also here. Of course, the labor for conversion and high rates and increments of unemployment, especially among young people. So, and also definitely all the impacts that are around these issues like family violence and of course inequality. And here, Hector Gomez, another professor of the university, also shared regarding to this point that we must build this social business that is the focus of this program with equality. We must build equality experts with the new ways to reduce this gap going forward, well, especially economically and sustainability, and reducing the breaches for growing and bringing a better society. We need entrepreneurs and companies with more conscious, social conscious human centers with social business working together. And for the future, the last point, for the future, how do we bring education to everyone? How do we adapt to these new working situations? How do we adapt to the new mechanics of the market? We must improve these important challenges and do proactive efforts to transform towards collaboration. This is the key issue, that we've seen a great collaboration between all the ecosystem actors, the university working together with OED, working together with the government, working together with the corporation. And just like Dr. Carla also mentioned, collaboration and adaptation with passion, and social economic adaptation with entrepreneurship resilience. This is a matter that we have also in Mexico. This is a matter that we will work in this models, in this important program to build this leadership for social entrepreneurship, for social businesses. And for this, I also want to share with you one of the more active entrepreneurs here in the north part in Mexico, Christina Aswara. She's a social entrepreneur impacting more than 7,000 women and 12,000 families with finance inclusion. And she said, as a social entrepreneur, I think we need mutual support as a strategy to adapt to the new circumstances of market, society, and well-being. And we need to foster, to strengthen the ecosystem to support these social businesses, these social entrepreneurs with resilience, collaboration, building a new and more equality between our economies, our society, and our well-being. Thank you.
Brilliant point, Karina, brilliant. Indeed, it is only through cooperation can the further development and growth benefiting everyone, including everyone, inclusion be achieved, growth can be achieved, and the prosperity can be achieved. Now, you've touched upon some very serious issues, such as the gap and the huge gap between the level of income, the violence, and the inequality in society. And that brings to my mind an aspect that we studied the last year in one of our modules. It is the BOP. Well, viewers, if you have never heard this term, I would strongly encourage you to go and search it after today's meeting. BOP stands for base of the pyramid markets, and it's indeed a crucial and essential theme, sadly, that not many people know of. But these problems, the problems Karina has mentioned, are they specific only for Mexico or for other American countries? Gustavo, what can you say about Brazil?
Well, thank you, Andrey, for the introduction, and also thank you, Karina and Nirja. I think we really have really similar issues on that, right? Brazil is a really huge country, and we face different challenges and realities. We are the biggest economy in Latin America, but one of the most unequals in the world in some way. In Brazil, we have a historical trajectory related to social and racial inequality. So during this time and the pandemic times and times like this we're facing, those inequalities really increase and takes the stage, of course. In the past year, we saw people struggling for their companies, their jobs, their homes, their health. And we are now seeing that now in this chaos caused by this pandemic situation and how we are dealing with that. But I would like to, of course, we have this challenge and we have this things happening, but we also had in the past year really good things happening. So I would like to look on that. And we saw lots of we saw the Brazilian spirit going away. Brazilians are well known by their creativity and the ability to innovate in difficult times, and we saw that in some ways. especially speaking about the third sector, NGOs and social business, they all had to change to adapt. Of course, most of them, as we have really poor communities, also us as ISAE, we had different projects in different communities. We usually go there and touch people and have conversations, etc., etc., and we're not able to do that yet on that. So lots of NGOs have to adapt on this, and they raise new ideas, they created different solutions. So this is somehow we could overcome most of this challenge. Of course, there's a really big path to go, a really long road to take, but we are moving on that. But something that really impressed me in this past months was the solidarity. Everyone was trying to do their best to help each other in multiple ways, something that Karina mentioned, and we see the ecosystem working together. We saw this happening, and we saw groups of people organizing themselves to reach foods, clothes and supplies to poor families, etc. We saw this collaborative action. Brazil is not like philanthropic country by DNA. Of course, we have a really big third sector, people help each other, but donations is not something really part of our culture as we see in the United States, for example. But in the past year, we raised something like $2 billion in donations. Of course, this involving the civil society, companies, organizations, etc. But it's a really impressive movement on that. And we saw the collaboration. And the collaboration is something really imperative for this new world. And it's something we're not going back anymore, I guess. So people, we saw people suffering and like the society in some way open their eyes. Of course, the inequalities, they are always being part of our history, as I mentioned. So we had lots of people living in poor situations. We had a lot of violence and in poor communities. We have 52 million people living in poverty in Brazil. And we have this since Brazil was Brazil in some way. But I think the past year, people saw this happen to their neighbor, to their family, and through their ecosystem. So they are more aware of that, and they try to play a role in this change in some way. And especially talking about companies, most of Brazilian companies, they mobilized resources and people for help. They did campaigns. Some companies constructed hospitals, donate oxygen. We are facing this big crisis now, and everyone was trying to do something to overcome that. So for conclusion, like what I see in our side, especially talking about social innovation, that is something we're going to work in our program, or social entrepreneurship and the different opportunities. The challenges are there. So we need solutions. We need people taking action. We need something to change that challenge. And this, as we see challenge as opportunities to change, I think we're going more and more innovative ideas going up. I think we're going to see more support from the private sector on that. So we saw lots of social investment running from some companies, companies putting some money to social projects, social innovation. So this is something is changing. This is going to be part of the business strategy, really huge part of the business strategies, these social investments, as we look to the capitalism stakeholders, as this position that company have in the society, this sustainable capitalism model. This is going to be part of the change. More inclusivity. People now, they know that we depend from each other. We must work in a collaborative way. We have to be this human-centered vision, as Karina mentioned. So the human have to be on the center of the decision, of course, considering different stakeholders. Our planet is one of the stakeholders, the society is one of the stakeholders, different countries are part of the stakeholders. So this collaboration, if I could define the last year as what it brings for the change, is the collaborative vision. So I think for the future, we're going to see this happening more and more, different sectors of the society, different ecosystems, everyone working together to overcome that. And we need that. So this is the main thing. We need collaboration to face this challenge and to overcome this pandemic situation. Thank you.
Precisely, Gustavo. We must not fear the change, for change is inevitable, and the sooner we embrace it, the better the outcome will be. And especially as you have quite rightfully pointed out, that when we see the change is an opportunity, when it are to tackle any issues that come alongside with it. Now, speaking about change, I myself have been a witness of the drastic change in education system in Russia last spring, when the lockdown came. It was practically a logistics nightmare. It was unexpected, but in the end, we managed to pull through. And my colleague and my professor, Natalia Inkowski, can talk more about the situation in Russia and what the consequences of the pandemic we are experiencing right now. Natalia, please, the floor goes to you.
Thank you very much. Well, you know, Russia is not only a beautiful country, but a very large country, but with not so many people. Our population is a little bit more than 144 million. And nevertheless, I'd like to share my view on the Russian context related to social impact. And first of all, I would like to remind you that we used to be a social country for more than 70 years. I mean the former USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. So actually, Russian Federation has inherited some of the features from the Soviet Union. For example, our people believe that government should deal with social problems. They trust government to solve social issues. That is why there are numerous federal social programs that address such issues as human rights, employment, healthcare, and others. Of course, things are changing. And with the development of corporate social responsibility, we could see social impact of large corporations and multinationals operating here in Russia. Another tendency is the development of social entrepreneurship. And many people see social entrepreneurship as a driving force in solving social problems, in spite of the fact that we have only 1% of small and medium enterprises, social enterprises. It's a bit more than 700 enterprises. But nevertheless, things are starting to change. And in 2019, our government adopted a federal law on social entrepreneurship with definition, features, and forms of state support, such as subsidies, infrastructure, consulting help, and professional development. And this would foster the development of social entrepreneurship here in Russia. Regarding the pandemic situation, I would like to say that it has generated a lot of challenges, but the global challenge is the influence of COVID on the people's health that creates additional problems for all industries and in all sectors of economy globally. I would like to highlight several challenges such as agriculture and food security, supporting jobs and firms, and protecting the poorest and the most vulnerable. you could see that globally consumers' expenditure on food is declining along with the income. Another problem is connected with transport restrictions that affect agricultural supplies and inputs. So we could see that supermarkets are facing temporary supply shortages, and consumers are burdened with price increase. The pandemic has led to reductions in consumer spending not only on food. B2B sector and exports have suffered dramatically. It has resulted in reduced access to imported inputs, business bankruptcy, shorter business hours, lockdowns, and worker absenteeism due to illnesses and quarantines. People engaged in the retail, tourism, hospitality, and entertainment industries are the most affected in the short run due to the restrictions and inability to telework or to work online. The crisis greatly affects vulnerable groups, such as low-income families with children, labor migrants, the elderly people, and people with disabilities. By the way, speaking about the migrants, each year we have about 12 million migrants. And when it comes to elderly people, about 15% of Russian population is over 65 years old. Speaking about the people with disabilities, they account for 8.5% of the population. What has been done to confront the challenges? Of course, we should speak about great financial support of businesses and households by the state, volunteering work, free medicines to the people with COVID, and I think a very important, one of the most important issues, creating the vaccine. You know that in Russia, we have created not more than one vaccine. Speaking about the future prospects, what more could be done? It's important, in my view, it's important to increase the focus on workers' health and safety. I mean to facilitate testing and impose strict health safety protocols at the enterprises. Another important thing is partnering with digital technologies and enhancing the use of financial digital payments with fintech solutions. Of course, we can't do without strengthening citizen engagement mechanisms and the focus on social inclusion. This should include opportunities for citizens and non-governmental organizations to provide social services to vulnerable groups through social contracting and social entrepreneurship models. And to mitigate pandemic's negative effects on the economy, it is critical that governments continue to provide support to businesses and people in a sustainable way. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. Excellent points. And I can only add one thing, that the situation with the healthcare, both in Russia and globally, is definitely determined by how fast and how efficient will the vaccination campaign go. The more people get vaccinated, and then the faster we will finally tackle the COVID pandemic. Now that brings me to another aspect from the previous year. When we were studying the Colombian case, it was mentioned that in the rural areas of Colombia, there are a lot of settlements in which people cannot afford and cannot get even the basic medicine facilities due to logistical reasons, due to being too far away from huge cities, and so on and so forth. And I would like to now ask Jose to say a few words of how Colombia is developing during the pandemic.
Okay, thank you, Andrea, and thank you all to my colleagues, Gustavo, Nirja, Karina, and Natalia. For me, it's a pleasure to be here and to talk about Colombia. You know, Colombia is like a country in the middle of America, 50 million of population. Until before the pandemic, we had like 27% people living in poverty and approximately. But here, you know, in Colombia, we have really rich ecosystem, and the ecosystem is working because a lot of, you know, universities and NGO and also Acumen, you know, investor company, they are already working here in Colombia. And government is also working with some kind of program, but, you know, like subsidies to the special vulnerable population. But with all these, and also at the beginning of this year, it's important to tell that the government released an entrepreneur law. So the main purpose is to foster the entrepreneurship here in Colombia. So they are trying to use this kind of legislation in order to support all the entrepreneurs that they are trying to bring new opportunities in the country. And also, well, we started the last year due to the pandemic, the GDP reduced 7%. So it was a really catastrophe. It was a huge problem, economical problem. And talking now to the pandemic, the unemployment in Colombia rise about at the beginning until 20%. Normally it's about 10%, so duplicate. And now we are trying to reopen, you know, gradually. But now the employment in Colombia is 14%. 14% of the employment, and about 30% of, you know, especially micro and small companies, they shut down. So it's a huge problem because I know in the whole countries, the main companies in the companies are, you know, micro, small, and medium companies. In Colombia, it's about 98%. So these companies, they are more fragile. They normally don't have proper access to the credits. So it's a huge problem about this one, and poverty is increasing. We are expecting to increase poverty about 8% in Colombia, between 8 and 10%, and it's dramatically, basically in the rural area, as Andrei said, because it's like a, you know, paradigm, because these like farmers, they are working so hard, but at the same time, they don't have too many access to many issues, to education, to technology. So countries working into extend the you know, the technology and all the network in order to facilitate all the access to these people. And also that we can see in all the countries, I think in the whole country, in the whole world, is the huge, you know, the gap in the education. In Colombia, we have private and public education. So with this problem, a lot of, you know, people that are living in poverty is even worse because they don't have access to education, because now we are online. And mostly in my country, many countries, in many rural areas, even in the big cities, people, they can't afford to buy a computer, a cell phone, and also they don't have, you know, Wi-Fi, you know, basic technology devices that they needed to be like we are doing now. You know, it's technology is, you know, it's like magical issue, because now we are connecting, we are able to talk and discuss, but also for poor people is even worse because they are increasing the gap. So I think it's very important, as we are in the universities, to see how we can, you know, start to resolve or to talk about this discussion about how the huge difference between rich and poor people when we are talking about education. And now it's increasing about that. Talking about, well, this is like the problem that is coming with the pandemic, and we had a lot of challenge. As you know, in Colombia, like 4 years ago, we signed this peace agreement, and we are working with many communities, special farmers that they are trying to switch to legal crops, but it's still a lot of problem and violence, because it's, you know, this kind of huge marketing about these illegal crops and products that are still working in the whole world. And also the huge here is the vaccination problem, you know, process, because we are in February, but as you see in the whole country, this is a problem. I think logistics is a quite relevant issue in the whole country in order to increase the, you know, the speed of the vaccination in all the countries. But as you see as well, as you read it, it's a really, and, you know, an ethical problem in the whole world, because the right way to get the vaccine must be about, you know, a mechanism like COVAX, because they are thinking about all the people at the same time, but like we are you know, watching on the news is just, you know, like always happening. Richer countries are buying the huge quantities and they're just thinking about themselves, but we don't have, you know, equality in the whole world, and thinking about the vulnerable people in each country. So it's a huge challenge that we need to do. Also to take back all these small companies to the normal businesses, and also we have the problem with the financial system. You know, banks are different because they are not giving the loans, so maybe they are not reducing, you know, the interest to the companies. And also we have, you know, the Venezuela is a big neighbor country, and they have a huge immigration. So Colombia, now we have like 2 million of, you know, Venezuelan people living here, and it's another problem because we can't afford all these people living, and they are living in really bad circumstances. So it's a problem that we are trying to cope as well. And the transportation in Colombia, and you know, now with the pandemic, people are trying to, here in Bogota, for example, the capital, is to reduce the massive transportation because it's the right place to get the virus. So now we are promoting to use bicycle, you know, transportation, because it's going to be much better. Not now, but in the long term, I think it's going to be the solution for the big cities. And for the future, I think that we have a lot of opportunities, and now I think that my main mission and the mission and vision of this program is to inspire to the students, because the students are brilliant people, young people. So we need to show to them that they are able to be part of the solution and not part of the problem, because normally the easy way is to complain, you know, about everything it's happening. It's not easy for everybody. But I think that the main activity that we need to do is like inspire people, say that you are able to do the changes. So that's why in my classes, I always telling the people that we are brilliant person, that we really need to do part of the changes, and we only need to see solutions and the problems. And I think that's the most important, I think, quality of the social business, is when all people see problems, we can see these, you know, opportunities to help people, and also for making money, because it's not like a huge problem. I always think that money is not a problem to create social impact. So they need to work together in order to create more impact. And I think that's the future that we're expecting. And in my case, in Colombia, we are always, you know, full of hope, and trying to work with, you know, enthusiastic young people that they really want to be part of the change and see a new picture about what is happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Well, exactly like you said, there's a quote by American President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. He once said, "Do not ask what your country can do for you. Instead, ask what you can do for your country."
Exactly.
And that is, yes, and that is a very nice statement. We should be proactive. We should seek the opportunities to make the country a better place for everyone, to make the society inclusive. And regardless of scale, regardless of how big or small you did, it is still a deed, and it still benefits everyone. And the sooner and the more comprehensive this knowledge comes to students, the young generation, the much more will the society benefit in the future, when the today's students will become entrepreneurs of the tomorrow. Well, thank you very much, colleagues. I believe we are done with the presentation part, and now we can proceed to the discussion. And I can say that I am very pleased to see that our viewers have already, it means that they do indeed find essential. And as such, Rafael Castodi asks, we can see the companies over the world recovering their market value very fast. And he asks, when do you believe the people will recover their jobs and their purchasing power? And he specifically states in Latin America. How to think strategically in this aspect?
Well, if I could add something just for start. Thank you, Rafael, for the question. Something I see is that the things are really changing somehow. So I think we're going to see shifting the economy model. Most of jobs that are lost now, they're not going back, I guess. So the ecosystem changed, the dynamic changed, and the economy changed. So most of their jobs are gone forever, I guess. So I don't think we're going to see people in some way recovering the jobs, but we must create new jobs and new opportunities on that. So if you look, for example, in the idea of green economy, and something like we're going to see in US, for example, it's pushing this a lot. So if you look to environmental issues, etc., and different jobs opportunities that going to be created on that, it's something that's moving to change. If you look to digitalization and different things like this, of course, we still have inequality, people that don't have access to internet. On that, we must work on that. But if you look to digitalization, startups, different business models, we're also seeing different business opportunities and job opportunities on that. So I don't think the old jobs are going to be back. So we need to think in the future, and we need to raise different opportunities for job. So this is the main challenge, and we must now is the moment to stop to think in the past, because businesses are not going to go usual again. So this pandemic, this past year, of course, this pandemic situation changed everything forever, in my opinion. So if you look to business school, for example, as we are, of course, we're going back to the class as we usually had, but we're going to see hybrid education. We're going to see more and more programs like this one. We had BSIEM, so online, connecting different students from different countries. You don't have to travel abroad for that. We're going to see more online education. So the business market is changing. So we must adapt on that and look to the future, look and see where are the opportunities. So in my vision, we're going to that way. So in Brazil, we had, for example, this announcement from Ford, the company of the automobilistic company. It's live in Brazil because they are not selling cars. They're not selling more cars. So the business changed. So they're going to sell, of course, they're going to focus on the specific products, but they're going to sell mobility. They're not in selling cars anymore. So in this moment, in this crisis moment, they took the opportunity to change. So I'm going to see this more and more. So this is what I'm seeing in this case. Karina?
Yes, I totally agree with Gustavo and regarding things are not going back the same way they used to before the pandemic. Definitely, that's a fact, because of all the tremendous changes, all the tremendous impact. So there are different ways of taking decisions. There are different ways and different opportunities for the market. And the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor and the story tells us, and the statistics, that after a big issue like this, a big breakdown, there are an tremendous increment of opportunities for entrepreneurs, or the startups, entrepreneurs that will change this matter. Because talking about the total macroeconomic focus, well, the first class is the statistics that we are going to recover the indicators for 2024. So this is the work for everyone. This is a matter, as Natalia and Gustavo and Jose and just said, this is an opportunity, a huge amount of opportunities for entrepreneurs. And this happened here in Mexico too. For example, as Gustavo mentioned with this automobile industry here, some metal mechanic industry have changed, and now they are also building healthcare issues. So we are seeing important transformation, and here in Mexico, important digital transformation. That this also that Natalia said in fintech and in other sectors. This is a must, and this also means reconversion of jobs, reconversion of education, new models, new capabilities that we must foster in our young people, in all our people. So this is also a matter. I do agree. Things are changing, and this situation, global situation, represents opportunity for all of those, resilience and reconversion.
Yeah, I just want to add that in Colombia, for example, we are thinking, because it's going to be like 2 or 3 years, so we are thinking in together a new legislation in order, for example, to promote the hospitality sector, because you said maybe Natalie or Karina, that is one of the more affected. So now in Colombia, we had a campaign about maybe Colombian people is just buying Colombian stuff. So for the plans for this year, just Colombian people travel in Colombia. So we are going to get more discounts. So it's going to be, you know, cheaper flight tickets. And also it's important to know that all the supply chain in the world is broken because of the pandemic. So now we need to start in Colombia and each country to know what is going to be those part of the supply chains that we need to create and to become stronger in each country, because we are creating new jobs, because the logistics is one of the more affected issues in the whole world, because now it's more difficult to import, export, and receive. So each country needs to what is going to be the opportunities according to the logistic issues, and to start to working with those companies or sector that they have a lot of chances to create new jobs, and also to start to buy internal consumer the products. So we are in a campaign traveling, buying to local farmer, to local fabrics, clothes, everything is working. And in Colombia we're thinking to create and take back new jobs using that strategy. Thank you.
Well, if there are no more additions to this question, then another question awaits us. Marco Antonio Andrade asks, are there any strategies to appease the hunger of the most vulnerable people during these trying times? The pandemic has certainly played a negative role in this aspect, and United Nations expects that people are going to suffer from hunger, that the issue is going to be more acute in the years to come. So is there any way to tackle this issue? Can some aid be, can it be aid? And if yes, then how?
Yeah, I mean, in Colombia, I think it's going to be like a common work coming from the different actors, because the government is giving the subsidies to these people. So we had a database to the lower people, so they are receiving now like these subsidies. It's not really that they need it, but also and actually, I mean, we have working before the pandemic in these vulnerable neighborhoods, and we are teaching to the people how they start to have these small crops, try to be self-sustainable. So we were working with communities that they start to putting on the walls this kind of devices, so they can plant these kind of tomatoes, some kind of vegetable. So it's like self-sustainable, and I think it's working. I think this is the opportunity to do that. And also in my case, for example, now WhatsApp is a powerful tool, and you can see a small farmer living close to Bogota, and now they are selling all the products on WhatsApp. So we are helping those people because they are, selling. They are giving. In my case, they are bringing every week, like my order. So this is like a small farmer that they are having these crops. So they are using by themselves, and at the same time they are selling to people like me. So I think this idea that they are coming and living, that's why I'm talking. And also I think the government help, and also to try to help these people living on their houses to have the basic crops that they can help to reduce, I don't know, maybe to get the whole solution to reduce the hunger problem. That's my experience. Thank you.
Just to add on that, I think aid is essential on that. We need coordinate solutions, and we need to coordinate collaboration. So in multiple ways, in a global way. So this is why multilateralism organizations are so important. This is why, as Jose mentioned, COVAX, it's so important, because we need to support people who can even eat, for example, who don't have where to wash hands, for example, as we keep saying, okay, so you have to wash your hands, you don't get COVID, and some people don't have water to wash hands. So aid is really important on that. So from local governments, so for global cooperation, collaboration from companies, governments, and multilateralism organizations. So this is my point of view.
Well, thank you for your answers, and I would like to thank our viewers for being so active and engaging in our discussion, especially Marco and Rafael. You know, communication is also a key aspect. The more you communicate, the better you acknowledge the problem. And I believe we have a bit more time for one more question. So, and I would like to ask this question myself. It is clear that there is no going back. We live in a different world. The world has changed. A new normalcy has occurred. But it's still a trying time. And can the emerging markets actually use the pandemic as a stepping stone to thrive under new circumstances? What do you think about that? We've already talked that the challenges may be viewed as opportunities.
Yeah, I totally agree. As I mentioned before, this is a matter of opportunity for developing countries like us. And mostly also because we have this tremendous problems in value chain and logistics and starvation and sustainability. So all of these problems, for big problems, there are also big opportunities for um, companies, for entrepreneurs, and with also organizing all the actors of the ecosystem, governments, the OEMG, the corporations, the education. So I definitely consider that this is an opportunity for us as emerging markets to going forward and to grow with this ecosystem. And a strong platform, of course, is the infrastructure, but also the education. Education is a big issue. Education as a program that we are just building that to foster social, economic entrepreneurs, to foster entrepreneurship with capability, with education, with connections, with funds, that those entrepreneurs, human-centered, those entrepreneurs that create this value at these solutions for the problems, and thinking as a society, thinking as a community, thinking as equality. Definitely is what I think. And this is happening also here in Mexico. We have a lot of problems, but we also have a big opportunity. This is our time.
Okay. Yeah. Can I? I feel that I feel that adversity really leads to a lot of innovation, and I think this is the kind of opportunity that we can really think on doing something which is very unique and also very specific. Now, for example, when you're talking of global revolution, everything has to be now done in a digital manner. So I think we really come up with a lot of new ideas in terms of health systems, education, employment generation. These are some of the ideas that can really be revolutionary in terms of getting into digital framework. As an academic institute, we're also going to have a blended kind of a learning now. Some could be classroom, some could be digital. So again, a kind of a new way of teaching and imparting education. In one of our themes that I'm going to taking up from 22nd to 26 is a climate change. Because I thought climate change is more of global. How do you really collaborate at the global level in terms of scaling up? How do you really, because this is not an India-specific problem, it's a global problem. How do you really integrate in your education curriculum and sensitize the youth towards global action and change. So these are some of the things now we have to really reshape, rethink, and kind of design the whole procedure in education, in social entrepreneurship, in corporation looking at it, and from the government perspective. I think we all have to wear a different lens and be very innovative in our whole approach of creating employment, creating opportunities. That's my take on this whole, adversity and opportunity.
Yeah, and I just want to add that, like Nija said, like circular economy is a real good topic to explore,
exactly.
because we are teaching to the companies that the waste that is a problem is an opportunity, how we can deal with all the situation, and also sharing economy. We need to put the lab in the sharing economy, because new generation people are not interested in into be the ownership. People, they want to share. So I think in the circular economy, sharing economy, there are a lot of opportunities, and also it's a new theory about to create this kind of micro economies. So in each region, in each country, you can do this, like union of different actors, so they can create these micro economies that they can give like new opportunities, especially for people living in rural areas. So it's just kind of education, and to create different roles in this kind of micro communities, to create micro, how do you say, micro synergies and empathize between the same people. So I think that's really good to explore and talk about it. Thank you.
Okay, well, just I really agree with all of you. And a very, very short remark. In spite of the downturn, pandemic pushed us to develop new forms of communication, as well as digital technologies. And there is no other way. We are in very difficult situation, but there are still opportunities to overcome, to cope with it. And I think if you know Russian history, we experienced much worse situations, but we still stay afloat and we are trying to thrive. So perhaps I'm very optimistic, but I believe that we not only survive, but we will be successful in the long run. Thank you very much.
Well, yes, Natalia, it is also very important to be optimistic and to never give up. Despite the odds, we persevere and we achieve the goals we set for ourselves. So once again, I would like to thank our viewers for the interaction. And now the time has come for the presentation of the BSIEM project, which stands for Business and Social Impact in Emerging Markets. I now give the floor to my colleagues who are going to give a more thorough presentation on this initiative and explain all its peculiarities.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to talk very briefly about the program. We started this program like in 2018. At the beginning, I started to talk with Nirja and Gustavo, because we said, well, how we can do, in order to start this kind of program that can facilitate the change of the students, because we know that we are coping with the same kind of, trouble. So we started, I remember, with Nirja and Gustavo, because the program at the beginning was like, physically. So I think it's very important also when the student had the chance to try, because they are knowing about the music, they are having fun, and also they are learning, because I think very important issue about learning is when you are doing it, having fun at the same time. So we started the first program in 2018, and I think was like a really good experience for Nirja. I had the chance to travel to Brazil, a lovely country, and I have been before in India. I have been like 3 or 4 times in India. I love India. It's an amazing country. So that's what the main idea about BSIEM program, Business with Social Impact in Emerging Markets. And we started the program, and each university had the chance to talk about different topics. Later was joined to the program Russia with University Ranepa. That was really pleasure to have you because Russia is really important economy. And the last one part of the team is Karina with Mexico, because it's another really nice and important country that we are really, very close to Mexico, as well as a culture, Latino culture. So the main objective of the program is to bring this in, really relevant experience to the student, because they had the chance to hopefully in the future travel, but now as be connected, and they are sharing different kind of situation in each country. So how is working the program in each university? We are recruiting the students. So for example, now in 1 month we are going to have the first program of the year running by NIRJA about social entrepreneur in India. So each university, you are going to have the information. We are like the coordinators in each university, so you can apply. And you want to say in which program do you want to be. So you just need to apply. And also, and in each program, for example, in 1 month in NIRJA, we are going to have a student for all the 5 countries. So in my case, I already have 40 students. Karina, all we are working together, and each program is about 20 or 25 students. And that's the main, that's the really rich part of the program, because it's a student from different nationalities facing and dealing with the same problems. As Nirja said at the beginning, it's important because maybe they can take ideas that they think that is important to implement or maybe to activate in each country. So I think this is like a social lab, huge social lab, when we have different challenge and problem that we are solving, but at the same time we are knowing people from different countries, and we have more ideas about how we can contribute to the different problems that now we see as opportunity. So that's the main spirit of the program, and I'm so proud. I feel so proud that now we are really 5 solid and very important countries in the whole world, and we are giving to all the students the opportunity to experiment, feel how Russian people are thinking about business, Indian people, Mexican, Colombian, and Brazilian people are thinking. So that's the main picture about the program, and yeah, that's it. I don't know if some of the students had any question about it, but it's very easy. You just need to apply to the description, and you had to do different, recruitment steps according to your university, and you're going to be on the program. And also it's important to tell that is really we're accepting people. At the beginning we start just thinking about business people, MBA, but now we are trying to get people for another kind of discipline, because it's important when you have different point of view about the same issue. So that's the main thing about the program. Thank you. Andrey.
Thank you, Jose. So just to reiterate, we have representatives of each 5 participant countries, and now each of our experts is going to give you an insight of the module that are going to take place this year. We are going to do so in the chronological order, and I believe the first one is going to be Nirja.
Nirja, the microphone, Nirja.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Yeah, as usual, you always tend to. Okay, so pleasure to share about my program and my institute. SP Jain Institute of Management Research is one of the top ranked management institute in the country. It's been ranked among the top 5. And we have been having the patron of Bhavans, an institution which was started before independent India. So, it has a legacy. It has a institution which is backing our institute, because it has a culture and social elements in the country. So, besides that, we have one of the top ranked institute. We also have not only something to do with management, but we do a lot of things which is to help and support the underprivileged section of society. I think that's one of the key differentiators in our institute. And that's one of our vision, rather, that how do we really develop the underprivileged through management education. So I think that's where our cutting edge is. And so we have programs like postgraduate management of 2 years, 1 year. We have family managed business. We have executive managed business. We have global management business. We have also a development management business, where we also have people from corporate social responsibility and non-governmental organizations. We also have something like a 1 year program, and global management. So it comprises of catering to almost all the section of society. And that's why perhaps social is a very important element incorporated in our vision and mission. And that's why we have taken up the theme of social entrepreneurship, which of course in India also has a kind of a leading factor, because a lot of social entrepreneurs are doing important and significant work. So this program that I already shared with you are basically covering a few themes which are specific to India, but the models can be replicated in your own country. So what we are trying to say, how do you learn from our models and also modify and replicate in your model? So that's why the whole exchange is important, because we have to learn from each other. So one, I said we'll be giving you the whole background, how this whole political and economic background has led to this unmet need, and where do you really find the gaps? How do you identify? So we're going to talk about the vision and the mindset of a social entrepreneur. How is he? What is the kind of vision an entrepreneur, social entrepreneur has? What is the purpose that leads him to do this? What is the kind of planning, execution, and risk factor that he takes? So these are some of the things which we will be sharing. And with this whole theme of background of political and academic Indian perspective, why social entrepreneurship is so important now, post and pandemic. What is it that it has really accelerated? So that's one aspect. Then we, of course, I shared about the women livelihood, where we're talking about the rural and urban both. How do you see all that in terms of human development, not only economic status, but also human development? So you talk of sanitation, you talk of education, health, livelihood, and then how do you really make a woman's livelihood purpose? Then you're talking about climate change. So we are going to take up this whole issue of scaling up. How to scale up social entrepreneurship? So we're talking about the definition and what are the factors that lead to scale up. So that's another factor. And then when we are talking of climate change and action through academia, through youth, how do you integrate this in the curriculum? What are the things that you can bring in so that it becomes a part of the curriculum and mandatory for every student to know how he's going to be a change agent and how he's going to be a campaigner for climate change. We're also going to talk about education, which I already shared. How do you make a sustainable education? Just not with school or classroom, but beyond that, because that's where the real education comes in. How do you bring in moral education? How do you bring value education? How do you bring mental and behavioral change in the students? And how communities are important in bringing this as an ecosystem and make the sustainable system educational a very, very sustainable model. And how do you really bring in volunteerism? Because I think pandemic has really shown a way for all of us to be a part of this whole development process. We also collaboration. We were talking about solidarity. We were talking about collaboration. We were talking how important it is to really be together. Also in this kind of a situation, how do we really help each other? So how does your education be a kind of a channel, a vehicle to bring about this collaboration and for change? And finally, with all these kind of themes and some kind of models, we'll ask the students to really think about it and how do you prepare a business plan where you can replicate in your country. So we want students to go back and do something what they've learned from Indian context, what they've learned from the global context through our kind of imparting knowledge and training program. So this is something that we would really be happy to share with all the students from different countries, and in the process learn from them a lot, because it's going to be totally participatory, very interactive, as well as it's going to be more of development, skill development, and the methodology is going to be knowledge, skill, and attitude. So the whole structure is based on 3 methodologies: knowledge, skill, and attitude. Of course, unfortunately, you cannot see the models because it's virtual. Otherwise, I would have really loved to take you all these kind of places and show you how it works on ground. But we'll try to see how best we can do it in terms of virtually. So welcome all, and we look forward to have as many students as we can for this program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nirja. Dear viewers, just once again to reiterate, our first module this year, the closest one, Indian module on social entrepreneurship, is going to take place in the last days of February. And the next comes the Mexico module dedicated to digital transformation. Karina, will you please say a few words about it?
Yeah, thank you, Andrey. Here in the Universidad de Monterrey University, We are a private university in the north part of Mexico with a high quality education program recognized with a global accreditation like ISAE within our business school, and also with the business graduate program within the 5 best master's degree in LATAM. And we, in the high vision of our university, we have at the DNA the social impact. We share as all the purpose, all the activities of the university. The university focuses on human centered, and we are really convinced that we are all are here to help. We are here to service and to stand in our lives through the service and helping others. That's why we are at Choca campus, which is a social organization that recognizes the integral force and work of the university since the academic issue, the extra academic, and the network with the ecosystem, helping social innovation, helping entrepreneurs and students to solve problems through organizations, through proposals to projects to start. So this is Universidad de Monterrey, which is also a beautiful campus in Nuevo León. But now, as Nadia said, you're going to be invited in virtually by now, but hopefully you will come to a beautiful campus here in Monterrey in a very soon time. So, and the theme of the program for the UDEM is digital transformation. And digital transformation, we are going to come for several points of view from researchers, for professors of the graduate school, but also for the ecosystems regarding to the technologies. What does it mean, digital transformation? What are this technology impacting? Measuring the impact and detecting, going through these changes in the economy to detecting opportunity for this social business. We're also going to invite a very, very important actors of the ecosystem with this social business, with the different points of view for what are these corporations doing with digital transformation, generating social impact, what are business cases of startups that they create values for digital transformation, and also, of course, what are the next goals and the opportunities to be achieved for this social entrepreneurship. Here, it's important to say also that in Mexico, it's seeing a very strong digital transformation politics from the government, but also from the corporations, and important movements, especially here in the north part of Mexico. And that's why we have a very important content to share with the students. We're connecting with this international group, and we're going, as I said, from technology, and taking, as Gustavo will share with you, with special innovation, but implementing in business solutions, social business solutions, implementing in validation, and the applying this with actors of the ecosystem, and of course measuring the impact of this digital transformation and its impact on social innovation and impact in our society. All of this from the experience of Mexico and the experience of the north part of Mexico, and now virtually from all different leaders in this issue, in this matter, in all these zones of Mexico, from the south, from the northeast, from the northwest, which are different contexts. So welcome to, we're really excited to receive you here in this program and getting to share, learn, and foster this digital transformation that is a must in this new perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karina. Dear viewers, be sure not to miss out on our modules. A module every few months, and the next will be in June, Brazilian one, on the theme of social innovation, and Gustavo is now going to give you an insight on it.
So thank you, Andrey. So really quickly, as we're rushing on time, in our module will be in June related to social innovation. Our program is really focused and see are local solutions for a global program. So we usually invite social innovators, entrepreneurs from Brazilian ecosystem and international ecosystem to discuss about business issues, how to create a social business, how to run a social business, how to look on that, how a social business can help the society, can help to increase the quality of life in the country, how the social business have impact in the world, how can we run sustainable social business. And so it's a really innovative model and really collaborative model. So we work in groups of students working real challenge and propose real solutions. So it's a week really intense. And then the last day we present the solutions for the entrepreneurs. So it's really based on challenge. And we're really excited to receive all the students in our program, not presentially yet, but online here in Brazil. We are going to the 4th year of BSIEM program. So as Jose mentioned, so it's a really good experience, and we are really happy to bring more students and to increase the participation. So welcome and thank you for participating in this webinar.
Thank you, Gustavo. And the remaining 2 modules, Russian and Colombian, are going to take place in the 2nd part of the year. The first one, Russian, in September. And now the floor goes to Natalia.
Okay, thank you, Andrey. And our module is devoted to corporate social responsibility of big corporations and multinationals that we have here in Russia. And they're going to share their best practices in solving social problems. And the participants will have the opportunity to develop the solutions to contribute to the CSR strategies improvement of the big companies, such big companies as Coca-Cola, IKEA, and L'Oreal. You know, all our online modules are very interactive, and you will have a unique opportunity to communicate and to work in multinational groups. So look forward to welcoming you in our module. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. And the last, but definitely not the least, is the Colombian module. Jose, you have the honors to wind up to finish. What's your module is going to be about?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. This year, normally we were running with the BOP, but like Nirja said, we are going to start this program with the circular economy. I think it's really important issue for the whole world, not just for poor, emerging, you know, rich countries. So we are just having this really nice program that we start like 2 years internally here in Colombia. So we are telling to the company how it's possible to include, you know, principle of circular economy. Is working for any kind of company. That's the real good about the program. And we are bringing, you know, real companies, and we are going to have kind of, you know, interaction with the managers, and we are going to have like consulting work. So the students, they are going to be involved, and they are going to have like the challenge coming from the company, and they had to resolve and coming out with really disruptive and innovation solution at the end of the week on Friday. So I'm so happy. Maybe in November, I can receive some students. You never know, you know, it's at the end of the year, could be, you know, better situation. So we can explore that. Thank you.
Hopes to that. Thank you, Jose. Now, I believe we are running out of time, and I would like to thank both our panel experts and our viewers for sticking around and engaging in a very important undertaking that we are having right now. And what I have managed to gather during our meeting, the points we have managed to highlight and determine: when the people have decent education, when the people can provide decent healthcare system, when there is no small gap, and the equality and the poverty will be tackled, and finally, when the society is definitely a society of inclusivity and equity, then indeed our mission will be complete. But as for the now, there are still many challenges to tackle, still many problems to overcome. We persevere and we do not give up. 2021 has only started. It's only January, and there is a whole year ahead of us, a year during which we can make a lot of contributions to our cause. And once again, I encourage you, students of any ages and people who are interested in this topic, to join us in our BSIEM modules. It is a beneficial cause, and once again, regardless of scale, your deed is a good deed. It's beneficial to the society. And let's hope to see that by the end of this year, there will be already some progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All the best.